Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Build with Stakki. Really looking forward to this episode as we have Tom Stearns on the show. Tom Stearns, sort of go-to-market consultant, but lots and lots of expertise. New book coming out soon, Graphic Sales. I'm sure it's full and packed with great knowledge. Tom, great to have you on the show.
Thanks, James. Great to be here, of course.
Excellent. Good stuff. Look, Tom, do you want to give people a little bit of an insight into sort of your background in sort of sales and go to market?
Yeah, sure. I spent 17 years in tech startups in Boston, actually as a marketer. Fell into an inside sales leadership role, B2B. Did that for a long time. And then about 10 years ago, I started running my own thing. And, I typically help teams, sales teams that are trying to scale up or fix something that's broken, or if it's a big company, re-engineer their team. And there's a lot of go-to-market, like holistic consulting in there, and also quite a bit of training. I like to start at the top, but I get really into the weeds too. I think it's what makes me special.
Yeah. I think the ability to sort of cross from like the strategic to the tactical when needed is what like makes real like consultants and fractionals and stuff like so valuable for companies. Um, One of the things you said like you'll start at the top, but you're happy to get into the weeds when needed. And taking that to like the sort of classic consultant side of like people, process, tool set. I would say the weeds is often like the tooling, and from some of our conversations, I know you maybe agree with that a little bit. So that people and process, and then tools, like where do you see people going wrong at the moment when they try to balance those three?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was thinking about examples of this, like so when changing an organization, so outbound, I do a lot of outbound work. And I work with a lot of different companies. And I love the phone still to this day, but I'll sometimes walk into an organization and the people part, I think of mindset. I kind of, people are mindset. And you can see that the organization from the leadership down to maybe the reps that are on the team don't believe the phone can work. Cold calling's dead. They've got that mindset. And when I see that environment, it's like, how are we going to change that,
Yeah.
or are we not going to change that? And a parallel is last year I had two clients at the same time, and one I walked in and boy, their leadership thought the phone was it. Um, they had people on the team already that loved the phone, so we had the mindset there, right? And then the skill set was lacking, and that's sort of the first area that we dug into. Like, okay, let's they were doing a lot of different things. It's holistic, but we dug into the phone. We worked on the skill set. We leveled up quickly because the guys loved the phone, but they just needed to be a little better at it. And but the connect rates were still low, as you
Mm-hmm.
imagine, right? People That's what people complain about. So we found like the right technology for the job, and the connect rates were back at the level that I've seen them for 10 years, 6%. Right. And that team in short order was booking 8, 10, 12, even 13 meetings a month on the phone, really like great numbers. So that's an example, I think, of if the other company, nobody believed in the phone, right? Couldn't get anybody to make phone calls, couldn't
Yeah.
get the leadership to really support that. So it was like pushing, like a rock uphill and then it rolling back down on me. So it was a different approach. Like we found a way to make it work for their business, but I think that's it's real maybe specific example of how if you don't have the mindset, you don't have the sort of people that care about this, and you don't develop the skill set, then the tools aren't going to matter. If I took,
100%. Yeah.
if we didn't have the skills, but we were connecting better, that's only going to go so far, right?
Yeah. And it's a classic example of like the two stories there show that mindset, skill, people, process, like you need to improve those things and then you can bring in tools to help give them back more capacity. Tech is like an enabler or like a force multiplier. It doesn't matter if the people aren't, if you're not paying attention to people and process, tools aren't going to do anything.
It can backfire, right, James? I mean,
100%.
how many times have you seen, right, a massive, expensive? Let me ask you a question. It's your podcast. Let me ask you a question. How many times have you seen like a bloated tech stack that is actually creating more chaos and
100%.
confusing the
Yeah,
mindset and the skill set of the people trying to use it?
yeah. We see it all the time, and it's why we built our business, right? Like SDRing in particular exploded, so then all the tools exploded, and suddenly you have people sat behind screens and they've got 4 or 5 different like Chrome extensions to log into. They've got they keep getting distracted by LinkedIn and seeing other people shout about tools. So then they're thinking, oh, should I be doing that? Should I be doing that? Should I be doing that? And when you compound that across their working week, if that's happening maybe 10 minutes of every working hour, they are not in like a consistent flow for actual prospecting. And that's, you're right, that's what's burning people's pipeline.
Yeah.
One of the things me and you spoke about recently was that like kind of burning money on tools because you think it's the problem. And then the outcomes actually get worse. Like how do you maybe help people diagnose that issue?
Yeah. So I do a similar sort of audit that you were describing, and like what is the tool set here? What is the tech stack? And what I do after that is uh, I audit the workflow, right? So like a team, particularly of outbounders, right, where you need an efficient process to do your job, then the workflow is where you're going to see the friction. So I do a lot of shadowing and I record my calls or I go there to try and understand what actually reps are doing. Because the reps themselves, I think they care most about workflow because
Mm-hmm.
they don't want to be wasting time either because time is money to them. And you can see exactly that. The similar client, one of the clients last year, they had 3 different data tools: Apollo, Cognism. I think they had a temporary license of Zoom Info, shared login in one, like all this kind of stuff was going on, and it was expensive, and it was so complicated. So to train a new batch on like, oh, you get some numbers here, you get some, like, it was very expensive, but it was also wasting time and adding confusion. So I try to be like, okay, again, what's the mindset, but what is the workflow? What value are we getting out? How can we simplify this so your people are having conversations, right? Or writing better communication, something like that.
Mm-hmm. And like the thing there that I often say to like our users of Stakki, the directors and things that we work with, like when was the last time you sat next to the sales rep and just watched? Just like don't put any pressure on them. Just say, hey, I'm not here to like audit your work. I'm auditing like our process. So just crack on and just show me like what are the things that take longer than you feel they should, and just like take some notes, and that will start to tell you like, okay, they're jumping between too many tools before they even find the number. They are scrolling through their CRM before they know who to call next, and then you can start to like see where like what's the impact of that tech sprawl and that like wasted time, as you put it, right? Because the hidden cost is the real opportunity. Anytime your reps aren't actually trying to speak to someone else or sending out a good communication to a prospect, that's opportunity cost when they should
Yeah.
be doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we need a base level of activity. I mean, anyone that says that like, activity doesn't matter. It's like, well,
Yeah.
it's a different question, right? It's like, where is the time for the proper activity? You need a base level of activity to get anything done in life, right? So I think that one of the things sales leaders could do more of is that, you're a sales leader, you know how to do discovery. Do discovery on your team, right? Sit down and, like you said, ask them their workflow, observe their workflow. Think of it as an audit. Like the reps know where they're wasting their time. They often are like it's falling on deaf ears, and leadership often avoids it, right? Like everybody sort of hates the grind of the daily thing, but that is really what earn your reps confidence, that you're paying attention to these weedy little details of like, what, you have to go there and there to do that,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? That's three. And why are you researching that? Like, we've got AI that could, identify the right companies that you should call, and then you could just fact check it, kind of thing. Like yeah, it's an audit your own team's workflow.
And how much better is that than, I'm sure we both see, is getting pressure from the board to look at AI, to look at Clay. So let's just buy it. Is someone go and explore it?
Yeah.
Okay. Now you've ticked a box, but it's having no impact.
Yeah. So Peter and I, my partner with Graphic Sales Stories, which is our side project, we talk about these things, and we wrote a story just about that. I mean, this is age old, right, James? That like, oh, go find a tool, like the shiny new object is what the story was called. But yeah, it seems to be evergreen problem. There's always been too much tech, and now the pressure is AI is the next thing. But without that people mindset, skill set, the process, people process, whatever, structure you like, it's all kind of the same. Is that if you don't understand your process, then the technology is going to be programmed improperly or add waste and chaos. I mean, it's just, everybody knows this, right? Like, I don't think I've ever said anything new in the world on these discussions, but like they still make the same mistakes time and again. And I don't know why leaders are often afraid to like get in the weeds and try to understand that it's not really that complicated. I mean, Steve Jobs used to talk about it, right? Like, hey,
Yeah.
business is not that complicated if you actually break down where people spend their time and what they're doing. There's a lot of logic sitting right there.
I think there's like an element of pressure, an element of FOMO. Like there's so, and like it feels noisy, that market. So if I don't address it, or I make it someone else's job to address it, I can say, no, we're doing that, we're looking into it. And when it's not delivering more pipe, like it gives me more runway for it. It buys me another 6 months of pressure relief, maybe from the board.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, especially like when people are talking about investors and being VC backed and stuff.
You do need to like understand it, right? I mean, I'm the same. I'm like, if I don't keep my knife sharp, I'm going to age out of this thing, and I'm terrified of that, right? I'm like, I want to. So, he's talking to you earlier this week about, what's the latest? How is it being used? Because yeah, AI is just flying at us, and it's valuable, but there's also you've probably been a victim of like how when it's used poorly, can really mess up your brand, your reps brand, your hands. Like the devil is in the details in a lot of this stuff.
And I think that's where like just that kind of leads us on to like how crowded any market can be now, with so many like AI tools. And even if like you don't really understand them, it doesn't take like much work for anybody to fire up like an email like spam cannon, maybe for lack of a better term, and start blasting emails and sort of automated LinkedIn at their ICP, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think one of the things you actually spoke to me about a couple of weeks ago was like the importance of people, or like tightening up their ICPs, and like how they should start to define that. And I know you've built sort of some agents, and you've got cover some of that in your book as well. So if you're advising a scale up or a leader right now, how should they think about their ICP and really start to define that?
Yeah, ICP is not surface level, and it should be data driven, depending on the maturity of your organization, right? So if you're a startup, right, you should obsess about like, where is my fit, but you have to experiment, right? You got to get out there and you have to learn. If you're a more mature or scaling company, right? Like, hey, we've got pressure, we got 30% growth or 150% growth, right? You got PE money. Then there's this sort of knee jerk, like, hey, well, it worked in this vertical, let's go to that vertical.
Yeah.
And that's the surface level that I think is where you get in trouble, because an ICP is not firmographics. It's a way to search for, potential clients, but an ideal customer profile are like 4 to 6 attributes that you've got enough data that can identify why they matter. And it's the first chapter in our book. It's something that I obsess about. There are some companies, right? The ICP is black and white, right? It's easy, but not most, especially in the SaaS world, right? You're coming out there with something new, and it's like, oh, we can be a spam cannon. You're right. But if you're going to scale it up and you've got enough business, then you got to look at 4 to 6 attributes. You got to look at the median, right? I like to talk about the median versus the average, because the average could be like, hey, we've got Google, right? And like, it's going to skew everything because not anybody's like Google. So you got to look at your median, and then you got to look for those attributes underneath. Like, hey, they've got an IT person that has people in multiple countries, or they've got this retail operations function, and that's where the real pain is. And then that person usually has come from another company. Like, they're really kind of weedy things that if you don't kind of look closely at your data, and you build another go-to-market motion with another vertical, right? And it didn't work, right? You didn't study your ICP. Yeah, and I built an agent, or I built like a function, for sale on my website, to help you battle test your own ICP, or if you don't have one, how to think about it, which I use myself. I built it for myself, because every client, I'm just like, we're going to do this right, guys. And I've turned it into a solution for anyone that wants to use it.
Yeah. And like the importance of, like you were talking there about sort of, we think this is our ICP in one vertical and then they try to go to another, right? We regularly see that with some of our customers who they want to scale and they want to go into new verticals. So then they think, oh, we'll get some more reps, we'll attack this vertical, we'll go here. And that's then when they haven't nailed that ICP piece and they've got some of that like tech sprawl and a bit of that chaos, that like new hire is kind of like thrown to the dogs, or they're not good. They're not given the best chance to succeed.
No, they're given a playbook for something else, and there might not even be a product market fit, right?
Yeah.
That's the real pressure from the board. The go-to-market team has said, hey, we got to drive more business. Nobody talked to the product team. I have a client right now, James, that is the opposite, right? They know they don't have a product market fit for another area that is a massive growth, and they're going to wait. They're studying that market. They're building the right tool. And I was just like,
yeah,
wow, you were like this. It was just fantastic, because they're like, no, let's nail this segment. Let's build an engine, and then we're going to do it right for this other. And that's how companies, I think, the silos of the organization get into a lot of trouble.
That's all about just making sure, I guess, there's enough opportunity for more headcount. And especially in an era right now where people think tools, like people are buying tools, and then I think that's creating a lot of these bottlenecks. And so then when they go to a new market, well, these reps they think they're maxed out, and they say they can book 10 meetings a month each, or they can close 10 deals a month each. That's then maxed out. Let's hire more, go into a new vertical. And actually they haven't realized that those reps aren't maxed out. They're like just really distracted by the different tools, and they're slowed down and it's inefficient. And the tools that, because it says AI on the tin and is meant to help you, it's not actually enabling your team. It's just creating more broken, like little bits of breakage and leakage all over the place. What we want to do is help them simplify that stack so everyone has a nice, clean process. Going back to your earlier point, you can then focus on mindset, skill set, get the team like as best as they possibly can be. And then is when you can I think you should start looking at other verticals and then think, cool, now we build the playbook so that the next hire can copy all of that and mimic it, rather than people are going too early for new headcount and new verticals, I think,
Regularly. Yeah. Yeah. And throwing more tech at it.
Yeah.
I have a funny story, James. Can
Yeah.
I tell you about like
Always.
the waste of money in some like bloated tech stacks,
Yeah.
or not investing in the function, right? Like who's owning the tech stack? I've regularly clients, they're like 12 different people in the organization own the company login for a piece of tech. I was like, no, that needs to be one person. It needs to be somebody in your operations team or your RevOps team. But I had a client where, again, this client was phone heavy, and one of the reps was like, really go getter. He's like, we should use this tool, right? It's going to increase our connect rates, and we're great on the phones, right? They're banging out the calls when they talk to people, they're closing. He's doing the right thing. He spends several months lobbying management to run a test on this thing. Finally gets approval, I think, in the 4th month. So they're like, yeah, just call up that company and book a demo, and we'll hop on. This is leadership. And so he calls up that company, and the guy who calls back is like, you guys have owned this product since last year, and we're wondering when you're going to start using it. So they were paying close to 6 figures for a piece of tech that was not getting used.
Yeah.
A lot of time and energy went into like getting a shot at it. So, and they rolled it out, and it's worked pretty great.
It's the worst position to be in as a seller, right?
Not crazy though. It's like, yeah, and I don't blame clients. It's like you got a lot on your plate, but it's sometimes you miss the forest for the trees.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we've kind of spoken about on our like previous calls, we've kind of spoken about, like, and I kind of just alluded to as well, is like that capacity gain per rep rather than growing headcount. Where do you see that coming into play? Do you see that happening like more and more within companies? I think it's like there's always been like an old, oh, we'll just crack the whip. Let's crack the whip. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about trying to make people more efficient and support them. And maybe you still see both. Like, do you see that a lot in companies at the moment? And is that like the common theme with boards trying to get more with less headcount?
Well, always, right? This is the AI agent thing, and how are we going to be more efficient? So I see that kind of pressure, and like I think sometimes I come across as a contradiction, because I believe in high activity rates, but I believe them in the right area that they should be focused, and that by giving your team a proper process and a proper tool set, you're bringing joy actually to those reps. Because you know what? They don't want to be research scientists. They don't want to be librarians. They don't want to write countless pieces of messaging over and over again. And this is what drives down the activity rate, or which is the function they want to do. They want to be having conversations. They want to be communicating with people. So I love AI when used properly. And I've seen this like in the last year. It's just been amazing in terms of like AI helping do the research, right? This is just like a no-brainer. You have the right tool. It's going to find the right companies that you should target. It's going to find the right ICP attributes, right? Because those attributes are where the problems are for your buyers, your personas. That data gets fed to someone that's going to make a call, and it's at their fingertips, and they're just taking a look at the website to make sure everything lines up. Now your reps are happier. They're happy to make more calls because they're talking to the people with the information that's going to make it relevant. They have to write a message like, hey, man, I'm going to communicate on LinkedIn, and you're giving them some value. You're plugging in with the flexibility where that they can add their own voice or communication, but you're arming them with the right message. Like all of the tools we talk about, all the technology, when done right, now, yeah, activity levels go up, but it's the kind of activity that the rep wants to do anyways. I want to talk to people. Right?
Stop paying rent to talk to people.
Yeah, I mean, used to use like contractors maybe to research. Like there were smart ways to do it before AI too, and not everybody did. But yeah, I think activity matter. Like me, I want to be active, right? If I can
Mhm.
do something more efficiently that I don't want to do, I do it, and that's what everybody does. So it's the thoughtful will drive the active, because you don't want to come in and just say, "Hey, you guys got to make more calls," right?
Yeah.
That just demoralizes people. Like we're trying, but I got to go to 6 different tools to get the contact information, and I got to relog in every 10 minutes because we're sharing a login. All those things we talked about earlier in the call that are not their job, right? Is what is reducing their ability to be more active, or host more calls or coach their own calls. Like we're talking about outbounding a lot, James, but I mean, it's the same with the full cycle. Like, hey, I need to analyze my own discovery call. Do I have a way to do that efficiently? Do I have I got some AI? Do I have some coaching? All those kind of things.
And on like, it's a perfect example. So I was talking to a customer this week, putting in conversation intelligence, putting in Fathom, and they wanted to know like, what's going to be the key measurement or the key benefits here. It's like, well, the speed of feedback loop, the accuracy of like note taking is all going to compound for your AEs. But not only that, product, the handover to CS, the alignment to marketing, all of that also can feed off of it. And that again is in the best case scenario, tools like simple tools like that is Fathom, good call recorder, good note taking. Um, it can all be automated so that when you come to your catch up at the end of the week and stuff like that, the manager and the rep are already going to that catch up knowing a load of detail, a load of stuff that needs to be talked about, ready for that call, and it makes you all more efficient. It keeps you all on the same page, which I I think like one of the biggest things is just accountability levels is one of the main things in any sort of team, any sort of like leadership, right? And it is all about creating that with all that insight across every person's stage of like the customer journey or what part of the customer journey they own.
Absolutely. I mean, like at every stage, there's some technology. I mean, I do a lot of my own discovery calls. I work with a lot of reps. So if you can speed up preparation,
Mhm.
right? So you've got an AI agent that you've programmed to like look up certain data points, provide that, drop it into your, strategy template, your planning template for a discovery call. Like AEs, you should always do, proper preparation. So that's that. And then if the call is recorded and that's dropped into an AI agent, it's going to write a proper recap email for the format, which hits the important points. It's going to recap it for your CRM. It's going to point up areas you missed. So instead of like, a massive, kind of what did I do there? Then instead your AI is going to serve up, hey, you missed these categories. To do that right, again, goes back to leadership, mapping out like what do we want to do on these things, and then what's best practice, and then here's an AI agent that you can use to check yourself and get the information in your CRM. That's all the stuff reps hate doing, right? No,
Yeah,
how many reps don't want to put the information into a CRM? I don't either. I don't like taking notes on calls, but AI's like been remarkable because every call goes into my AI agent and points out like
yeah,
what I needed, and I can run a disco call so well that if a client needs a proposal after, you know, my agent will do that. It used to take me 6 hours to figure that out, to
yeah,
properly do that. Now I get it formatted, and then I'm kind of just checking all from like a couple of conversations. So
yeah, exactly that. And I think people are really missing a trick there of like the amount of knowledge that you can build up with these types of AI agents and stuff. Like there is so much gold there for marketing, for the enablement teams in the future. But one thing, it's maybe a bit of a curveball, but I wanted to ask you, like, do you think there are certain roles that are like within maybe the revenue team um, that might be at risk the more AI starts to take things on? There's two that I think are, but I wondered if you've got
Oh man, you already
any
figured
ideas.
this out. Well, I mean, there's definitely, the SDR role. Um, like there might be a reduction in headcount. I don't know if the role is going to go away completely. There's a lot of talk that, oh, this will all warm up. I still have my doubts, at least today, on the efficacy of an AI agent actually, booking all the meetings. A lot from personal experience and brand damage because it's still not being done well. There is a level of it though that is going to augment the role again in some ways positive.
Mhm.
I think AI email, when done really smartly, is not a bad sort of first step. And then done smartly, there's trigger mechanisms, that then feed it to a human. Same with some LinkedIn automation. I've seen some amazing work there, but there's actually a lot more human involvement in the background.
Yeah.
The poor stuff is exactly what you think. But so, yeah, I think there are aspects of the SDR function that are in trouble. A bit of client success, I think, in some ways, depending if it's customer service, there's a lot of work your bot can do online. So, yeah, I think headcount could be reduced as AI gets better and is used better. What do you think?
So I was, I like asking this question, but what about sort of like enablement teams?
Oh,
My
absolutely.
logic, my logic is that they might not be at risk, but well, I think they are at risk, but they can stick around, but they need to adapt fast because I feel like what happened was, when Sales Lofts, Outreach, Cognisms all became like big uh, mainstream tools for like SDR teams. Everyone was getting them in place, and people hiring more SDRs. And then suddenly, like leadership who was trying to run the business and do things, they realized, oh, someone needs to make sure they all know how to use those tools. So then maybe they got their best rep and moved them into like a BD enablement role. And so the manager could just manage and the enablement could just coach. And I think now, if people can organize all the tools properly and everything's recorded, great tools like Second Body will pull in everyone's calls, train an AI bot, compare it to a like a framework, and then say this person needs training here, here, and here.
Mm-hmm.
I think in like enablement, managers are going to get more time back again if everything's set up properly, so that they can actually in those one-to-ones they can go in and they can do the coaching and the leadership and the accountability, and it all comes through like giving managers time back. I think is like a massive thing, and so I think enablement has to adapt really quickly, or they might be at risk.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, enablement seems to be one of these jobs that goes up and down too, and
Yeah,
depending on your definition of it. Is it an operational function like setting everything up and training how to use it? Is it actually coaching? So yeah, I think absolutely. Never seemed like a stable role, anyways. Um, I think that yes, could be a reduction in headcount, but I think the complexity again of setting these things up, it all starts at the beginning with like, do you have a process? We're doing this. I'm doing this now with a client. Like there's a leader. I've worked with the team 6 months last year. They're now going to scale much bigger. We're working on how, we already are using bots in there for coaching and training and, mock calls using, an AI bot. So I think that yes, reduction in headcount could happen, but I also think that there's a new role that's evolving. Right. So a lot of these AI tools are effective, but they need to be taught what to do, like even
yeah,
scrapings. And so a client last year, they have someone on the team that was given the role, And she's basically between, she's maybe it's enablement, it's not coaching, but it's the technology enablement. But she's really technical and is always engineering the AI that's finding ICP, routing. There's territories, there's growth, there's a lot of sequences and AI email involved, and a lot of calling. And she's like embedded with the team, the sales team, and she is critical, right? And they built the team. There's more people there now that are doing that. So this role is kind of developing of like, hey, we're using this stuff, but if we use it wrong, we could damage our brand.
Yeah.
And if we use it right, we are getting, we're empowering, enabling the sales team to have more conversations. So I've seen some more investment. I don't know if you'd call it enablement or what you call it, but we need these technologists that get it. And it's critical. I have a client right now, doesn't have a RevOps function, very small company, but I'm like, we need one, right? If we're
Yeah.
going to grow this thing, we might need to invest in that role. So sorry for the long answer, but I think things are going up and down, but yeah, you can't just plug and play AI and expect it's just going to work. No, you need to invest in people to manage it.
I think that's where RevOps is maybe also one of a job role that's changed in like relevance and
Yeah.
like hype at different times. And obviously, like in practical terms, I suppose that means in some companies it's amazing and it's needed, and others it's maybe overthought. But I think as more tech comes into the market, and then we had like go to market engineering, which is a bit of a buzzword these days, but Clay have done an amazing job of presenting that as a new field, and it's kind of needed. I think go to market engineers, they're kind of there in part because RevOps forgot about the top of the funnel and all of those tools. They were busy looking at like TAM and everything that's conversion through the funnel and who gets what coaching and what should enablement do, and like managing all of like the CRM stuff. And they got so like CRM centric, they probably forgot about a lot of the tools that are needed to do the outbounding and then feed into that. Um, and so I think when I talk to sort of the customers we work with, when they're thinking about do we need a go to market engineer, or like are we overcomplicating it, I often say like if you someone in your RevOps should probably learn it. So maybe get a coaching, maybe get like a consultant to help.
Mm-hmm.
But you want that RevOps, or if you're going to hire, have the go-to-market engineer sit under the RevOps team, and then you kind of got like the front, top of funnel, and the rest of funnel under that one function, because it all matters and it all needs to sing together.
Yeah, I would definitely say that the sales and marketing, RevOps, go to market, like the silos have to go away.
Yeah,
And I've worked with some big enterprise companies, and those silos still exist. But the best of the best comes when there is a tight integration. RevOps, demand gen, if you will, is another term. And because of this role and signals and all the data, right? I've seen companies that when demand gen is super tight, they're running these programs that are creating intent signals or engagement on LinkedIn content, engagement with content on the website. That if you've got people and that are go to market engineers, if you will, studying that and pulling it into your sales team and feeding that to them, like, why are we cold calling, right? There's a good amount of like signals out there to parse and to feed those to people to reach out to. So I've never seen it more important than the integration and the right people talking to each other on both sides to make it really work.
yeah, absolutely, and that's the key to building any good revenue engine, right? So, Tom, look, it's been a great conversation. Few takeaways for people. If you're a sort of revenue sales leader going into 2026, what would be like maybe the two or three things you would really focus on, or you'd recommend they do, so that maybe they don't get carried away with AI, they can benefit from it rather than cause more chaos within the company?
Yeah, everything always boils down to the fundamentals. Might be a boring answer, but it's why I get hired often. I'm usually fixing the fundamentals, which is, do you have a proper ICP? Do you have a proper process? Do you understand your process? And are you measuring all of that? So make sure you understand what's happening today with your team as it relates to your target and how people are approaching it. Mm-hmm. And if you understand that, and you have a ability to build a more robust technology stack, then yes, the tools are at your fingertips. You need the right ones, and it's a crazy landscape out there, which makes your service immensely valuable, which I've taken advantage of. Everybody, it's incredible. So you need that expertise there too, but make sure you understand the fundamentals and then layer on the tech. If you don't, you're going to make things worse.
Excellent. Tom, absolute pleasure speaking to you as always. Really insightful. And like you said there at the end, like someone has a real good understanding of all the fundamentals and can bring that to your business. So, Tom, where should people go? Where should they look to keep up with everything you're doing and this great new book that you've got coming?
So yeah, you can find everything about me on Stearns.io, including my book called Graphic Sales. I'm also pretty active on LinkedIn. I post every week, so you can find me there too.
Excellent. Absolute pleasure, Tom. Look forward to speaking to you again. As always, maybe getting you on the show again in the future. Everybody, if you can please subscribe. It really helps us grow. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks very much, everyone.